everyone, this is Lori, and I am going to demonstrate for you today how to do a mixed media background on a card. So I've posted these on Facebook and Instagram, and you can see here that they have a really neat layered depth to them. And really I'm starting out with a background that I've created from a napkin. So I'll show you that. And this is on the same level, just a little bit different style. Again, nice depth, and this one has some texture paste on it as well, so a little bit different. But I'll be teaching you this technique while making another card. So let's get started. What I have today is I have a 6x4 white top folding card base, and then I have a panel layer that I'll be working on. This is watercolor paper cut to 5 3/4 by 3 3/4. So that is what I'll start with. I also have, like I said, this is a background built off of a napkin. So I have a small, this is what, probably 4x4, maybe 5x5 napkin. And I'll start with that. I'm going to be using some matte medium. Oops, sorry, I got that backwards. How to do that? There we go. And I am just using the Art Minds matte medium for this project. Some, I'm not quite sure if I'll use texture paste yet, but I might. So I thought I'd show you that. I'll be using some white gesso, and this is Deco Art Americana Premium. I really like that. It has a smoother texture to it that I like. And then I'm also thinking I might use some Craft Smart gray, dark gray acrylic paint. So that is what I am starting with. I also grabbed some sheer gray ribbon because I think that is going to go well with this project. And then I raided my button bin, and I found this very neat. Can you see it? There we go. Button has a really nice texture to it, of like a floral texture, and I think that's going to look really nice on the front. So to start with, what I'm going to need to do is to get my matte medium ready with a paintbrush. Now, I use a paintbrush with matte medium all the time. The trick to keeping your paintbrush in good condition is making sure you wash it out quickly. So the first thing I'm going to do is just take my napkin and pull it apart. And now if your napkin has layers like mine does here, this is like a 3-ply. I am going to pull off the top layer and only use that layer on my card for this project. Okay, so now I have that. So now I need to decide how I want this to lay down on my page, and I think I like this little blue border down here at the bottom, so I think I'm going to lay out pretty much like this. So I'm going to trim that up a little bit just to make it a little bit easier to work with. You don't have to be careful when cutting this apart because it's going to all get cut off this excess layer a little bit later. Alright, there you go. So that is ready. So what I'm going to do is start out by laying a layer of matte varnish down onto my card panel base here. Alright, and then this is going to go right over the top. Now it depends. I mean, you can make it wrinkly, you can, get whatever the level of texture you want out of it. I want mine to be pretty smooth though, so I was careful to try to lay it down so it would stay smooth. And now I'm just covering it now with another coat of this matte medium. Okay. Alright, now I want to make sure my corners are going to stick well, so I'm just going over my edges pretty good just to make sure it's all stuck down. Okay. So now I'm going to take my heat gun here and give this a dry. I really just want to dry it enough so I can trim off the excess around the edges before I go on to the next spot here. Okay, so get this off that craft mat, there we go, and I'm going to just go around here and trim off the excess napkin. You could fold it over and glue it, but I really didn't want the lumpy edges by doing that, so I'm just trimming it off. It's still a little wet, it's okay. Alright, so now I'm just checking. I have a few little scraggly edges here I'm going to take care of. Okay, we are pretty much done. Alright. So there's my base layer, and it looks pretty nice the way it is. I love this napkin pattern, and that's the fun thing, is you can do this in bulk even and apply the whole napkin over in a larger sheet and then cut them down, whatever you like. But today I thought it would be easiest to do this. So my next thing is I'm going to knock this back a little bit by applying a layer of gesso over the top. Sorry, my arm is in there. My water dish is at the back of my craft room table here, so okay, so here we go. Just knock it back a little bit. You'll still be able to see it, but it just won't be as vivid as it looks right now. Alright, I think that's going to be good for me. You can keep it, go a little more with that if you like, but I kind of like how it looks right there. So I'm going to heat this again with my heat tool and get it dry. Now I have a stamp set I'm going to use on this. It's a older stamp set. I don't think it's still in production, but it is from Club Scrap, and I really like it. And I'm going to, I want to use this "Thank you for being so thoughtful" up here, and this flower here. So what I'm going to do is, now that I'm thinking about where I want to put this, I'm going to put the little, that saying up here, and the flower is going to go right here. So I'm going to go back in with a little bit more gesso and knock that background a little bit so that my stamped image is going to show up a little bit more. So let's get that done right now. So this is where I want my saying, so I'm going to get that a little more right here, just so that image is going to show up good. And then right about here, I think, is where I want my flower image to go. So I am going to knock it back a little bit more right through here. Okay. All right. I think that's going to work. All right. Let's heat it again. I am going to take just a quick second to clean up some of this gesso off my table, because I think what I'd like to do is pull out my stamp press to stamp those, the saying and the flower, just so that if it doesn't stamp just like I wanted the first time, I can do it again. So I have the Tim Holtz stamp platform here, and I'm going to set up my... If you don't have one of these, it's really nice to have. I mean, it does give you that flexibility, because hey, we're not perfect, and sometimes when I go to stamp something down, especially when you're working with mixed media and you have so much, I'm going to move this just a bit so you can see it better. Maybe better to move this up. Okay. When you're working on watercolor paper or with any type of paper where you've created a background that has texture on it, sometimes your stamped images don't stamp the greatest the first time. So this really gives you the chance to make sure you're good. So this is where I want my little saying to go. And I'll give you another tip. When you're working with the traditional the rubber versus the clear stamp is, if I don't know if I'm going to stamp real clearly the first time, what I'll do is I'll take a piece of paper and I'll line it up down where I'm going to stamp at. And then I will do a test stamp to see if I have placed my stamp. Whoops, sorry about that. There we go. If I place my stamp squarely on my pad here so I don't get a crooked saying. So let's test it out. And I think that looks pretty good. So we're ready to go with the full run now. Alright. So again, I'm using archival ink for this. So, and I'm doing that because I don't know if I'm going to add any more color. Maybe I'll add a spray in a second, or maybe I won't. But this will give me the flexibility where if I do decide to add glimmer mist or something like that, my image isn't going to run or bleed or go anywhere. And I really like that. I'm thinking I'm going to try and get another stamp on here because I want it very clear. There we go. Perfect. Alright, so the next I'm going to do is to stamp the flower. I believe, yes, I do like that right about there. I'm going to go back in with the archival ink. Looking good. We want it a little bit darker. Let's get that stamped in there again. I just really like this set, and I'm going to have to check on their site and see if it's still available. It's a lovely set. Maybe it's out on eBay and that if they still don't have it. I know it's from 2006, but Club Scrap, they have a Club Stamp kit that they do monthly. It's just great. They have a lot of neat images. Alright, I think I'm liking that. So we will call that good. Get this stamp press out of the way. Okay, so we are humming along pretty good here. I do think I am going to get a little bit of color in this. There we go. I think I want a little bit of a splatter, so I am going to take, this is Craftsmart Sea Mist Pearl acrylic or matte, sorry, in metallic paint, and a fan brush here. Now I need some water. Get that all, a little more water there. Okay, get that real good. I'm going to add just some color on top, just around. To bring that out a little bit. You see that? It's kind of subtle, but it's going to add a little bit of shimmer to the card. So, get that cleaned up. And then let's heat set that. So here we go. That's what we have so far. Now what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to cover this whole panel with another layer of matte medium because I'm going to color that little flower. I want to color it with the artist Pitt pens, and they are going to do best over a non-porous surface. So I'm going to go back in now and just recover this whole image with this matte medium. Okay, there we go. One more time with a heat tool. I do think I'm going to add a few little black sprinkles before I do the coloring, and then we are going to be ready for the coloring, and I think we're going to be pretty much done with this card. Now you do want to be careful with the black. It can be pretty dominating, but it also can really bring some nice contrast. And since we used black in the writing in that, I wanted to bring in a little bit more around the edges. Alright. Okay, heat set. So I'm grabbing my artist Pitt pens. I'm going to use this. This is light indigo with, let me see here. I think I'm going to bring in a little bit of this turquoise cobalt blue. And then how about some chrome oxide green for. Now these will blend nicely. I also like to have a little bit of a damp paintbrush with me when I'm working on fine little images here, so I can see if I get that a little dark. I have time with this to really drag it down and bring it out. And you know, if I'm working on the edges of a project with a Pitt pen, I just use my finger. But where I'm working on kind of a nice small area here, I am just going to blend that out with a kind of a damp paintbrush. So there's my green. I want to zoom that in a little bit more. Can you see it? Alright, so now I'm going to do something similar with the lavender and blue. I think I'm going to start with the blue. Get that a little wet in the middle of my flower here. And these Pitt pens really work nice. See, I'm just going to blend that out. It's going to be a subtle color. I don't want it real heavy. So, there we go. And bring the lavender in around the edges and blend those in a little bit. Just a subtle little color to help this pop a little bit. I do think it needs a little bit darker color, so let me see what I can find here. Here is a little bit darker. Here's a lilac. So I'm going to bring the lilac on the outside here where I want it a little darker and bring that in. Okay, I think that is good. So I'll hold this up for you. Just some subtle coloring on the little flower. Unwind this. Oop, there we go. Go the other way. Here we go. So now I want to add a little bit of depth around the edges, so I'm going to take this gray, coal gray pit pan, and I am just going to kind of blend it in and bring some. I don't want it real dark because I want to keep the lightness to the card, but if you bring in just a little bit of darkness around the edges, it kind of keeps everything, your eye in towards the images, and it doesn't, your eye doesn't fly off the page because it doesn't have a border. So, and again, these pit pans are working so good here because of that matte medium I put over the top. Just a subtle little grayness around the sides. Kind of build it up a little bit. This is a really light gray, so it takes a few tries to really get it built up a little bit. Just kind of keep doing that until you're happy with it. Okay, so I think I'm happy with that. So I'm going to get my card panel, and this now will be adhered down to my card panel. And let me get my tape gun here. To just center this on the card base. Okay, there we go. And lastly, I'm going to embellish it with, I do like this ribbon. I'm going to add a little bit of ribbon around the bottom here. Right above, do you see the blue border and that? Right above that. Just going to tie a knot, no bow or anything. Okay, just trim that, and then I'm going to remember that button I showed you. I was excited to find that because I think it's going to look so cute. I hid it. Where did I hide my button? Of course, oh, there it is. We are going to put that little button right here on the. So I'm going to get that flat as I can and then add this button right here. Okay? Let me get the right glue for that. So this is Aleene's Rapid Dry Mixed Media Adhesive that I'm using here. I'm going to glue that down. Hold that for a second. I'm going to move the little ribbon ends so they're going to be glued and just shooting out one side. See how I've done that? Just moving that over. That's drying. I'm going to retrim. So do you see how I've, done that? They're just sticking out that way. This one needs trimmed a little bit more. There we go. And I'm going to hold that. Hopefully it won't take too long to dry. Okay. That is drying. The other thing I want to do now is get back out, because that silver is awful bright against that muted background. So I have a little bit of gesso here. And I'm going to take the gesso and just lightly paint over the top of this silver button, and it's going to bring out that floral pattern of that button too. So, and that is going to be the end of this card. Now the alien's glue is going to dry a little bit more, but basically we're done. And you know, you probably don't want to sit here and watch glue dry, but there it is. So this is, let me get it close up here so you can see the different components. And back out. So this is a fun way to add some, if you have those leftover napkins, even tissue paper works, to add those to your card and use them as fun backgrounds. They really do create some nice dimension. So I'm going to show you the two other projects that we reviewed at the beginning. There's this one. This one was used with the same napkin that I had just done, and it's a little different. Little blue birds there. And I guess I'm not going to show you that pink one because I've lost. Oh, there it is. Okay, here you go. And then that pink one again. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you have a great weekend. Happy day to you.